2 big mana decks this weekend. He's playing Amulet Titan. We have Dom Harvey playing Titan Shift. Collin, one of 4 Urza decks. There's a split between Sultai and Bant. But here we go, starting the battle for the buys group. And Dilks on the play starts with an Ancient Stirrings. One of the advantages here of Amulet Titan is going to be that it kind of can ignore things like Urza, things like Emry, these value engines. You just don't care.
Yeah, this is the spot where a lot of what you're going to be doing is just trying to make a 6-mana 6/6, and you got a 50% chance that it's good enough. It either is or it isn't, right?
It's definitely 50-50. Is Primeval Titan good enough? Sometimes 50-50. You never know. This deck's all about flipping coins.
So you're kind of the resident Amulet Titan expert here on the broadcast team. What do you think is the most important thing for Dilks to be able to do in this matchup?
Make Primeval Titan.
Oh, yeah, okay.
There we go. Analysis done. That's the important thing. Make a Primeval Titan. No, but honestly is to get a Titan in his hand and cast it as early as he can. There's a lot of really powerful things Collin does if you give him 3 turns, and while you can try to interact with it, I actually just generally think the best way to approach the matchup is to not interact and just make a Titan.
Sure. And I know this is something back in Atlanta, we saw an incredibly long game between Austin Collins and Zan Syed where it was just Oko being able to elk all of the Primeval Titans and go the distance.
Yeah, I think those are the exception rather than the rule on these ones. But we do see here, this is a good play from Collin and really showing respect by elking that Amulet of Vigor as fast as he can.
Right. In a lot of ways, this feels like one of those situations where Collin is just saying, all right, how do I just flat out lose the game and then trying to avoid that nightmare scenario?
So we see Amulet of Vigor, Simic Growth Chamber, untap, pick up, bounce Castle Garenbrig. Here's Azusa, 2 more land drops incoming. One of them is Castle Garenbrig. Does he have another land? You would have to think that this amulet's going to get elked as well. But at the same time, with Castle Garenbrig and these extra land drops we see now Bajuka Bog, as he bogs himself, it doesn't really matter if Collin answers the other amulet. There's already enough mana to cast a Primeval Titan.
Mm-hmm.
Now, sure, if the amulet's around, when Matthew makes a Titan, he can give it haste, +2/+0, but in this matchup, that's not as important as you might think.
Right, and there's also a point where if Rountree just keeps elking all these things, Dilks will just win a heads-up game.
Yeah, if you give your opponent a 3/3 every turn, they might attack you with 3/3s.
It's just good math.
It's the downside to the card.
I don't think
it's not a strong downside, right?
So,
Looks at Castle Garenbrig, makes 6 green mana. Can only be used to cast creatures. If only there was a aggressively good 6 mana green creature. Back over to Rountree we go. Collin, with the turn 2 Oko, this is one of the better things his deck does. But main deck, he has 1 Metallic Rebuke to possibly counter a Titan. He has 2 copies of Drown in the Loch, but that's not going to play just yet.
Exactly, and we saw Dilks Bajuka Bog himself here to play around that copy of Drown in the Loch. This is just the level 100 expertise stuff that you'll see from someone of Dilks' caliber.
And here is the situation. We see Thoughtseize on Dilks. He had just 2 lands in hand. Which means the Thoughtseize misses, but probably still good news for Collin.
Yeah, there's a spot where you cast this Thoughtseize hoping your opponent has no spells left, and that's what you got.
So Collin takes the 2. 3 mana, makes a food token, and is actually going to turn it into an elk looking to block for his Oko.
And part of the draw to this line in particular is this let Rountree know that he didn't need to elk the opposing copy of Amulet of Vigor.
Yeah. Dilks draw not a Titan. It looks like it's a land. It might be Slayer's Stronghold. if Dilks had red and white mana, this would actually be good enough to kill the Oko. You could give the Azusa +2/+0. But not going to be the case. They both swing in here. And we're probably just seeing a trade of Elk. That's going to be it. Oko down to 2. That is the Slayer's Stronghold. No red or white mana for Dilks. That Cavern of Souls. And the last card, the Vesuva in his hand, he chooses to hold for now. But some breathing room for Collin. He only needs about 1 or 2 more turns.
Right. This is the spot where it feels like he's reaching the point to start trying to turn that corner. And we see a copy of Urza hiding out in his hand. And that's going to give him some real pressure.
Yeah, the fear here, I think, as it always is that Dilks draws a Titan off the top.
Right. But you can't do anything to prevent that anyway.
So he'll make a construct. He casts Urza. Then he goes ahead and makes Engineered Explosives on 1. Says go. Probably just needs to fade this for 1 turn, maybe 2. Is it a Titan? Dilks draws. Big turn. Maybe?
Is that a Tolaria
He's reaching for some mana. It is Once Upon a Time. Okay. There's a specific creature Dilks has in mind.
Summoner's Pact is one of the cards.
Almost a Primeval Titan. Yeah, he was hoping to find Tolaria West or Primeval Titan. I don't think he found either.
Unfortunately, with that, Summoner's Pact is only an honorary creature, not a real creature.
It's like the bad version of Primeval Titan. But you still play it because Primeval Titan's great. He finds Sakura Tribe Scout.
All right.
And that's going to set it back.
Dilks basically has Fast Bond.
As many land drops as he wants. But really looking for a Primeval Titan. I suppose if he'd found Field of the Dead here... Actually, I'm not sure that's even good enough. I don't think he can do that enough.
Right. Standing up to everything that Rountree has with 2/2s and not any sort of Primeval Titan-esque resource engine is a really tall order.
Yeah, he plays Vesuva. He might want to pick up a bounce land of some kind. I'd be interested to see whether he would do that just so if he draws Field of the Dead, he can start making multiple zombies.
Sure.
Looks like he's actually valuing the Bajuka Bog higher at the moment. Bogs away Collin's graveyard. And then says, go. Collin cannot untap quicker. And now we start to look how Rountree turns the corner. He gets to untap with Urza, which is always huge here. His deck does not have any copies of Thopter Sword or any sort of combo here.
No, he is looking to win the old-fashioned way with Urza.
Yeah, which isn't usually attacking. A lot of times it's just making enough value that your opponent doesn't want to play.
Right, right.
You know, Oko starts plussing to make Mox Sapphires. That's totally reasonable.
Tap it for a mana and then sacrifice your tapped food for mana with Gilded Goose. No big deal.
Still doesn't have a way to counter a Primeval Titan, but maybe doesn't need to. He'll start here with another Gilded Goose.
Oh, that's just a 0 mana spell with Urza. How about that?
Yeah, it just pays for itself. That's nice. It's totally fair.
We thought Manamorphose was broken.
Urza quite the powerful card itself. So you can let's Mox Diamond tap for, or Mox Opal can tap for a blue now.
So I don't... You know what? Never mind. You got it.
I mean, maybe he didn't have Metalcraft. Second Urza. That'll bring along another construct, though. This is the kind of matchup, especially now that they don't play Walking Ballista. You don't really have to worry about Urza dying. Dilks, the only way he can answer it, he has 2 Okos of his own.
Right, and we see Rountree prioritizing pressure at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, the best way to beat a deck with Primeval Titan is they can always top deck it, so you want to try to end the game before they do. No.
Best counter strategy is killing them. Truer words never spoken.
They can't top deck if they are out of life points. And looks like pick up there, no help for Dilks. Might be... Yeah, Selesnya Sanctuary, the draw. At this point, Primal Titan's probably not... I don't even know that that's enough. Collin has pulled away pretty far here. He's got Dilks to 10. These constructs are going to get mighty large this turn. And we'll see if that is enough. Oko trading Mox Opal for Dilks' only blocker.
Oof.
Plays another Mox Opal. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Make that 5 artifacts in play. Here's another Urza. Make it 6. This is a lethal attack. And Dilks hands him back the Opal. Says, you got it. And Collin Rountree takes game 1 here.
God, you could have seen this coming.
It's not possible.
And
there's no way to know.
Look, that was also kind of the fail state of the Amulet Titan deck, to be fair.
Right.
Felt like Dilks was firing on most cylinders and was really just looking for the match for all of his gas.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes when you play Amulet Titan, and in most ramp decks, you keep this hand with all... I mean, think about what Dilks' opener probably was. A lot of enablers, no Titan, no payoff. If you keep that hand, and the top 10 cards of your deck doesn't have a Primeval Titan, you can do all the fancy play you want, you're probably not going to win.
Right, and that's... any combo deck in general, you just need to find that payoff card.
Right. Especially maybe if Field of the Dead was in the top 10, he could have bought some time. But with the way his deck was set up after shuffling it, it's just there's not much he can do.
Sure.
So with that said, he's down a game. We do go to the sideboards between the players. Dilks' sideboard, 3 Mystical Dispute, 3 Dismember, 2 Engine Explosives, 2 Choke. He has the 1 Rex Age, a Tireless Tracker, a Force of Vigor, a Ghost Quarter, and a Cavern of Souls. There's a ton for this matchup.
Oh yeah, Mystical Dispute, very attractive against the pile of blue spells. Dismember is something you can make a strong case for if you want to make sure you can tag Imri as well as Urza. Engineer Explosives, obviously great against a pile of permanents deck. Rex Age, very good. Force of Vigor is reasonable, but a little bit more iffy just because blowing up things like Mox Opal and Arkham's Astrolabe is a little bit awkward.
How do you feel about Choke in the matchup? I mean, Collin is mostly islands.
I think Choke is a nice option to have here. It's something where if you're expecting the game to go long and Collin doesn't have that sort of, we'll say, Thopter Sword I win button,
right,
then that's going to be a lot more attractive here.
Both Dilks and Collin Rountree were winners of their groups this morning in Legacy. Went straight through to the winner's bracket. Collin was 3-0, has not dropped a match yet.
That's just a good strategy whenever you're playing in a tournament. Just keep winning.
So Dilks will do that. If you're looking to get onto the SCG Tour, we have our invitational qualifiers. These are tournaments that happen at stores around the country. You get $1,000 in prizes each time and 2 qualifications to the invitational. The next one is in June at SCG Con Summer. You can earn SCG points also to get buys at all of our tour stops, top 8 playmat, and tokens. You can find a location near you at starcitygames.com/IQ.
That is go. .starcitygames.com/IQ to you, Matthias.
There's this cool thing with browsers when you go with browser paths that it is cool. You can just it'll work. It'll fill in the blanks.
I don't know.
The computers are taking over. They know.
I've had some rough typos that Skynet did not fix.
Oh, that's certainly true. If you take a popular website and you mess up one letter in it, you're probably going to a site you wish you didn't go to.
Right. Like, I've never wanted to goggle something in my life.
That is goggle.com is prime web real estate. That thing gets so many hits. Though no one ever stays. They just immediately navigate off the page.
To be fair, the same is true about Google.
I mean, you mean when you search something, you don't type www.google.com and then go to the page and then type into the search bar?
Oh my gosh.
I don't know. Well, how else do you use Google?
Well, if you want to be a cool early 2000s baby, you can go to askjeeves.com.
Now you're going to tell me that the way you go to, like, Twitter is I type in google.com, then I go to Google, then I type www.twitter.com into the Google bar. See, and then I go, and then Twitter is the first result, and then I click on that.
At this point, I'm such a hopeless Twitter addict that I don't actually know how I get there anymore. I just look at my
you're
phone
there.
and I just go, yes, the website. I won't say it's comforting, but, I'm used to it at this point.
See, the trick is if you click the I'm feeling lucky button after typing Twitter in, then you can save a step and go to Twitter. But works.
You have to type Twitter correctly, too.
Yeah. It does require some work on your side. But you can copy, you can just have it like as a notepad file, and you can copy paste it into the search bar, and then then you don't have to worry about typos.
You can what?
Yeah, it's great. See, it stops you from doing typos. I can't think of a faster way to get to Twitter.
Witchcraft.
All right, we both are keeping 7s here for game 2. Matthew Dilks starting with Once Upon a Time. Totally reasonable. It's going to find Tribe Scout.
Can you believe Ponder is not legal? Preordain is not legal. This card's fine.
Man, we used to talk about banning Ancient Stirrings. That was nifty.
Do you remember right after Ponder and Preordain got banned and people were just like, all right, well, when's Serum Vision's going to go?
Yeah. See, Collin Rountree is playing a deck which is green and is almost all colorless cards and artifacts, and he doesn't have Ancient Stirrings. Too slow. Arkham's Astrolabe from Rountree, and will be Mishra's Bauble. Dilks, on his Once Upon a Time, had the option to take a Primeval Titan, but he didn't. Gets a Tribe Scout, making you think the Titan might already be in his hand.
Oof, yeah, at this point when you're kind of just passing like this, it's real worrisome to be on the other side of the table.
Yeah, Emery here from Collin. I mean, it doesn't take much for this turn 3 Titan. So Tribe Scout can get land 3, land 4. If land 5 is, say, a Castle Garenbrig, you just have the Titan.
Yep.
Teleria West into play. And it was an Emery from Collin. Here we go. Now it has to hope that Titan doesn't hit the board. And he might be okay. Tireless Tracker from Dilks.
Oof, well, unfortunately, Dilks is a Titanless tracker.
This one's out of the board. I don't know that that's true. Maybe. What I always like is this card with extra land drops. It's super fun.
Look, I just wanted to do the word play.
We don't actually know how this... So now we get clue tokens. Those we weren't playing, but then clue tokens are kind of like food tokens. They just mostly just sit around.
They're just doing their best. Getting to untap with this Emery is actually a pretty big deal for Rountree, because this is the kind of thing where you get to start recasting Mishra's Baubles and the like, right. And Rountree just gets to kind of run away in terms of cards that he has available.
Right, and this is, I guess, why Amulet players tend to like this matchup, is a lot of decks would have trouble against this stream of card advantage that's happening on Collin's side. What Amulet Titan has going for it is that when it comes to card advantage, Primeval Titan is just so much card advantage in one card.
Right, there's a point where your 1 6-mana card ends up being worth effectively 14 cards over the course of the game.
So even though your opponent has a 1-mana creature that taps to draw a card, you can ignore it. Your cards do more.
Oh, yeah.
So 6 mana, 3 clues here for Dilks. I mean, if he has a Titan here, right, he's going to be up to 5 clues. He'll have a ton of mana. It's hard to see a situation where he ever runs out of cards.
Right, this is just the spot where Rountree is going to have to do so much to end up coming back from this position.
And actually, Dilks just says go. But a stack of clues on his side, maybe that's fine.
Yeah, at this point, he may just be saying, I'm ahead on the battlefield. Let's make Rountree actually play into me, rather than the other way around.
Yeah, eventually this Tireless Tracker will get enormous from sacrificing clues.
Right. This is a real source of pressure here on Dilks' side.
Two cards here from Dilks. That's thanks to that bauble. Mishra's Bauble plus Emery, one of the engines of the Sultai Urza deck. Without a combo Thopter Sword finish for Collin, I feel like this board gets harder for him.
Right. This is the thing where Rountree is now going to struggle a little bit to actually find a way to go over the top of the Amulet Titan deck.
Right. And I think Dilks benefits from knowing that Collin doesn't play the combo. If you were playing this blind without deck lists, there would be a concern of, hey, I can't just sit back and crack Tireless Tracker clues because I might get comboed out.
Right, but now you're actually in a spot where you know you're not randomly going to have to face down, War of Invention into 30 million life.
Right.
Well, I did my best.
Yeah, so now we see Dilks on step. He's going to go to work cracking some clues. So it's one clue. We'll see if he wants more.
Oh, this is in response to an Urza.
2 clues. Okay. He's looking for a mystical dispute, maybe?
Mm-hmm.
If he has an island or an untapped blue source in hand, or actually any untapped land here, he can Tribe Scout in a land, crack a clue, and try to mystical dispute it. But third clue is cracked. Tireless Tracker is now big. 7-6. Dilks hasn't used the Scout yet. I have to think he has a land in here somewhere.
Is it better or worse if he doesn't? I imagine he just wants to make his land drops at this point.
Yeah, with Tireless Tracker, lands are just basically never want to miss your land drops.
Exactly.
The Construct, currently a 5/5. So,
I mean, we're at the point where this Tireless Tracker is a clue crack away from just outsizing the Construct.
yeah.
And with Rountree being at a lower life total, Dilks is likely comfortable here.
Right, you can just keep attacking. Rountree down to 13. Dilks with a full grip thanks to all these clues.
Both players really just firing on all cylinders in terms of resource production.
And we do see Summoner's Pact now in hand for Matthew Dilks.
Oof.
Unlike previous versions of Amulet Titan, there aren't large green creatures anymore other than Primeval Titan.
No, you're not doing any of the cute Hornet Queen Rurik Thar stuff.
Right.
Things like Field of the Dead have kind of invalidated the need for those answers.
Yep. Summoner's Pact has gone back to just being Primeval Titan.
Yep. Well, if you're anyone but Ross Miriam, it could be a Reclamation Sage.
There is one of those in Dilks' sideboard. Sometimes you see something like an Arboreal Grazer.
Card can reach up and block.
Yeah, sometimes you'll see players replace one of the Tribe Scouts with a one of Grazer. It's a similar enough effect, and there are board states where if you have an Amulet in play and a bounce land in hand, pacting for a Grazer is a Lotus Petal.
Oh, interesting. Sure.
Yeah, it's probably, I think the general opinion of is that is a cool interaction, but not good enough.
Yeah. Definitely not when the deck has become as streamlined as it is now.
Another cracked clue. So 8-7. Now for the Tireless Tracker. Dilks added an Amulet of Vigor to the battlefield, and now an attack in for 8. Collin going to take goes to 5. And I'm starting to wonder, what does Dilks have? I mean, this is pretty good. Here's Azusa. Actually, correction, Dilks. We see Cryptic Command counter the Azusa, bounce the Tireless Tracker.
Okay.
A big swing for Collin. Here's another Tribe Scout. And I actually want to say some real good patience on Collin to take that huge hit.
Yeah.
And then bounce it.
Well, when you play cards like Gilded Goose, like Oko, and so on, you just have so much time.
So back to 6 we go. And Collin maybe is doing okay, yeah.
Upkeep here, cracking a Mishra's Bauble to sort of build his own opt with this Polluted Delta here.
And eventually one of the ways that Collin is going to try to win the game is actually with a Cryptic Command Mystic Sanctuary lock.
Right, that's just their way of saying, all right, I have counterspell every single turn. It's almost like an Arayo emblem.
Right, and you can use this Emery plus Bauble to redraw it immediately.
Mm-hmm.
It's usually not a hard lock. You do that for, you demonstrate that for a couple turns while you're creating more value with something like an Urza.
Right, and there's even the spot where even if you're not countering anything, you can just tap their team and bounce your Mystic Sanctuary to get things out of the way, to pave the way for constructs, and it just goes a long way.
So back to Rountree. And this is a situation with all those clues down. It felt for a while like Collin was out of this game.
Mm-hmm.
But the way this is playing out, not so much.
Right, it wasn't as pronounced, right? There was never any single turn where Rountree drew a ton of cards. But he did have that Mishra's Bauble happening every turn, which is not entirely dissimilar from drawing a card each time a land came into play.
Well, in a lot of ways, it feels like Dilks missed. We mentioned that Rountree's deck gets an extra card or maybe 2 extra cards each turn, and it wins most of the fair fights. But the reason I didn't think I was concerned about that was that Amulet Titan can do better. It can have Primeval Titan. But in a situation where Dilks doesn't make Primeval Titan, where he's just cracking clues, making tireless trackers, it's not just that Collin can keep pace with that, he can outpace that.
Yeah, absolutely.
As we see here, this the Emery continues to go. Now Urza's on the board, Oko is joining Urza, and we might just see a 2-0 here. Collin has got all the pieces in play.
Yeah, it looks like he's actually starting to turn the corner here.
Yeah, I mean, you look at these artifacts. I mean, if he has Cryptic Command in hand with these 4 artifacts, what's really going to happen? Dilks didn't put a land into play on end step with these Tribe Scouts.
Yeah, and without something like Cavern of Souls to force Primeval Titan through, Rountree is not far away from that Cryptic lock, right? The kind of downside of your ramp decks is even if you get to the point where you're casting your big spells, they're not cheap, and you can't really maneuver very well with them. You just kind of have to jam and pray.
Yeah, Dilks with so many cards in hand, but if he can't play Fair Magic here, and oddly enough for the Amulet Titan deck, it seems like, which plays 28 lands, it seems that Dilks has run out of lands.
Yeah. Yeah, at the point that you see him putting things like Teleria West onto the battlefield, that's not a good sign.
Yeah. Tribe Scout will make a Simic Growth Chamber. And that... he's going to have to pick up a land. Untaps it with Amulet, retaps it for the mana. Makes 3 transmutes for Cavern of Souls. Okay, he can play that this turn.
All right.
And this is enough for turn. Yeah,
this is a path.
This works. If he has the Titan now, this works. And here is 6. Primeval Titan. Yeah, Cavern of Souls naming Giant. So this is the play that Dilks needs. Now, is it too little too late? We will see. Collin is at 6, or 5 rather, so a hasted Titan here.
I'd be surprised if this is too little.
Actually, it might just be lethal.
Right, Dilks is pretty ahead in the life total race. So if Rountree doesn't have, say, another Cryptic Command to tap this Primeval Titan in combat, this might just end up being lights out.
Yeah, Boros Garrison and Slayer's Stronghold both enter the battlefield. They get to untap thanks to Amulet of Vigor. At this point, I mean, it feels like we would have already seen Cryptic Command if it was there.
There wasn't ever really a spot to do it.
Okay, so you think maybe go to combat?
Right.
He's going to pick up the Simic Growth Chamber. Fair enough. All these, any other counterspell, remember the Titan was put into play with Cavern of Souls. So no play there. And then go to combat, you're right, here is the Cryptic Command, so we can see a tap draw. And that is what it'll be for Collin. Can Dilks put together 20 damage? I guess he doesn't actually have to, right? Because he has Mystic Sanctuary.
Right. Well, he doesn't have enough islands in play to trigger a Mystic Sanctuary here.
So he's down on islands. Bauble, sacrifice, gets an extra card. Rountree only plays 2 Cryptic Commands. Both are in the graveyard, so it would have to be the Mystic Sanctuary, but he can't do it.
You know, honestly, it's not impossible that it's close to impossible. I was about to say it's not impossible he finds lethal, but it's kind of close.
At the very least, he can Elk the Primeval Titan.
Right. That's a really big game here. And, you know, it looks like he ripped a copy of Damping Sphere. If we see something like Elk Primeval Titan, Damping Sphere, Dilks doesn't actually have that many green sources.
Right, Damping Sphere would turn off the Simic Growth Chambers. He has just enough. He has Forest and Cavern.
Right.
So we see Mox Opal. It's a second one to Legend Rule there for Collin, but he makes a mana first. Yeah, Damping Sphere is in hand for Collin Rountree. Casts another Urza. That will Legend Rule away. Gets another Construct, though.
And here he recognizes he needs to end this game. He needs to attack right now.
Right. Elk's the Primeval Titan. I think what he has to figure out, the reason why I like him prioritizing these constructs, actually, and why he might not attack, is if Dilks has another Primeval Titan, he needs to not lose to it.
Well, he does have the one that can sit back on defense. And most of the things that are going to deal with, say, a 7/7 construct will deal with all of them, like engineered explosives.
Yeah, I mean, because he has the Damping Sphere down, I think he's okay. Without the Damping Sphere, the next Titan is very likely to have Double Strike.
Sure. Turning off Boros Kerosene is a really big game.
Yeah, the Ammo Titan deck's not great at making red-white without it. Especially not that now they've moved away from gemstone mines.
Mm-hmm.
Mills 4 more into the graveyard. Damping Sphere's in there.
Blockers.
There is the Damping Sphere. So the part of that that's going to matter here is that second ability. When a land is tapped for 2 or more mana, it produces colorless instead of any other mana type and amount. That turns off most of the lands in Amulet Titan.
Mm-hmm. And because of how many things Rountree has cast this turn, he's done casting stuff.
Yeah, there's another part where now his spells all cost a lot more.
But these... Good grief, these are 8/8 constructs now.
Right, we just saw that one attack in for 8. And Collin likely only needs 1 turn.
Right, and Oko has the ability to get a blocker out of the way next turn.
Or he can trade away an Astrolabe for one of Dilks' blockers. Dilks casts Summoner's Pact. Remember that it's going to have to pay 1 more for the next one.
Is it time for Rex Sage?
It's going to be Primeval Titan. 7 mana here. He should be able to do it. But it takes all 7 of his mana. I don't know that that's enough.
Yeah, he would have to tap all of his lands.
Looks like it. Yeah, he set aside those 6 there, but he will need a 7th to cast it.
And there's even a world where with the Summoner's Pact, if he doesn't destroy Damping Sphere, he just loses?
He cannot pay for the pact.
Oh, well, I guess the
Titan can get a forest.
Forest. Right.
Yeah, as it is right now, though. You're right. He can't get it on upkeep. So, there's 7. He's paying the extra for Primeval Titan. I can go get 2. There's an Amulet of Vigor. But with Damping Sphere down, there's not actually too much Dilks can do here. I don't know that this Titan's enough.
No, you know you're in a bad spot when you're thinking, all right, am I going to have to chump block with Primeval Titan?
Right. Yeah, and then there's, one of them has to get a forest. We start there. If he doesn't have a forest in hand, Titan will have to get a forest. Gets Field of the Dead and Vesuva.
Vesuva can copy a bounce land, which then bounces itself, and eventually turns into a forest, but makes a bunch of blockers for these constructs in the meantime.
And actually, he's telling on here is Field of the Dead. Yeah, maybe I think he realized he needs the green mana source.
Well, the Vesuva can come down as a
can.
basic forest.
Yep.
Or, breeding pool, if he can get a breeding pool or something like that.
Ideally, he'd like to have 2 Fields of the Dead in play. Eventually, he wants the Vesuva to end up as that. Whether it goes there right now, or makes it there, is different. So yeah, it's going to look like breeding pool and Field of the Dead.
Sure, and this is him just kind of padding his blue source count for future Teleria Wests under the Stamping Sphere as well.
Right. So 2 zombies in play for Dilks. And then land for turn here is going to be another Simic Growth Chamber. Plays it and has it pick itself up, so 1 more zombie. And that should be it for Dilks. He's already played 2 spells this turn, so does not have the mana for more plays. Will it be enough to keep him alive? The zombies should be good for blockers here. That is 1, 2...
Oh, he got the colorless from the breeding pool, or the Simic Growth Chamber.
Right, okay. So he can pay for that Tribe Scout. It looks like end step Collin's going to go ahead and sacrifice a food for a bit of life gain here.
Sure, and that's just trying to put himself out of get punked out territory.
Right.
These zombies go both directions.
Right. Fatal Push to draw here. Can Collin break through? Probably not with these constructs. Dilks still at a healthy 12. And now we've reached that point where, is this good enough? I guess you can Elk a Primeval Titan, but then the big difficulty for Collin now is going to be dealing with these zombies.
Right. That's a lot of attackers, and Rountree is not at a lot of life.
Certainly has to make the play. Takes away the Primeval Titan. Dilks won't be casting another one next turn. His green mana is going to go into paying for that first Titan. It's possible he can cast another.
Okay, so this Polluted Delta is a big deal because we know that Mystic Sanctuary is in Rowntree's hand. This is going to give Rountree, eventually, that 3rd island, which then lets Mystic Sanctuary get back Cryptic Command, which gets Dilks' blockers out of the way.
Yeah, eventually that ends up being the win con for Rountree, is Cryptic Command every turn.
Right, and in the meantime, he needs to either make each construct lethal or make more attackers that can actually do something, because Dilks will have the ability to create blockers at instant speed with Sakura Tribe Scout. Oh wait, no, because if you activate the Scout in response to the Cryptic Command, then the zombie will get tapped, and if you don't, your Scout will get tapped. Excuse me. There's a lot going on here.
Yeah, end step another zombie for Dilks. That's with the Tribe Scout. Seems like a long time ago when this game was on Tireless Tracker.
Oh, this has been a journey.
And back to Dilks we go. Pays for his pact. If he has an untapped green source and a Titan, he can make another one. First 2 top Primal Titans have been turned into Elk.
I guess theoretically he could play Simic Growth Chamber, float a green with Cavern of Souls, bounce Cavern of Souls, replay it with a Sakura Tribe Scout. Or just bounce a forest and do it that way.
Trying to break through is Dilks, but he knows that that cryptic command lock is the plan here. Both cryptic commands are in the graveyard, so there is a spot where if Dilks manages to get a Bazooka Bog here, then the game gets strange again.
Yeah, that one honestly might do it if he were to do something like that, just because there's no real way to punch through these zombies.
So this is interesting. We have Summoner's Pact from Dilks, but it gets Primeval Titan. Can he cast it, though?
Oh, he can. He's got to do a lot of hand-waving to do it,
yeah, here's
but it is possible.
Well, here's Simic Growth Chamber, makes a colorless, untaps, picks up another Growth Chamber, puts this one into play, untaps, I believe then needs to pick up the Forest, right? Or could pick up Cavern of Souls. So then that picks up Cavern. Cavern now to play on Giant. That's going to be able to cast Primeval Titan. And this one, whereas it feels like you're going to want to get the Bazooka Bog.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is the spot where you really need to work on covering your bases. So I think we could see something like Bog and then Vesuva on Field of the Dead.
Right. And maybe Dilks has got the win here. We'll see. Primeval Titan number 3. Tons more zombies on the way. Field of the Dead, really a card that gave Amulet Titan a new angle of attack. One of the big upgrades to the deck in the last 6 months.
It's just such a strong card.
Yeah. Here's Vesuva. And it is a Gemstone Mine. So no Bog yet. But the Mine will certainly help. Also gets him closer to that red-white he needs to pay for the utility lands.
Mm-hmm. And this also puts him right at being able to transmute Teleria West.
And not a spell, so that one does not cost more to Damping Sphere. This Titan doesn't have haste, however. He was not able to find a way to make that happen. So, with an army of zombies and a third Primeval Titan, Dilks is going to pass. Might see some Urza activations from Collin.
Ooh, this is combat.
Actually, yeah, hold on. It's not a pass. You're
It's
right.
attacking time.
So it's a swing for 11. A lot of these creatures will go to the graveyard. We have some large constructs.
I'm no expert, but someone at 8 can't take 11.
No, he can block 3 of them. 4 if he wants to lose Emery, but that's a pretty big cost.
Yeah, that's a rough one. Especially when you know that Emery is worth something later on anyway. Right, if you chump with it here, then it's just it's never going to be worth more than 2 life anyway.
Block both. Fatal Push on one of the zombies. Does actually put Emery in front of the 3/3, so they do swing in. Collin down to 2. We say go. Now Collin down to 1 on the fetch. He's got to get that lock going now.
Well, if he just has a way to draw a card, then he can Mystic Sanctuary, put the Cryptic on top, and then draw the Cryptic.
Yeah, well, he chumped away the Emery, though, so Bauble doesn't do it anymore.
Bauble would have had a turn delay. It would have taken an extra turn for that Bauble to actually draw him the card, so I think now he's looking for something like Arkham's Astrolabe.
Okay. So down to 1 here for Rountree. That top card wasn't able to cast with Urza, so polluted Delta. And draws. He has the Mystic Sanctuary we know in hand. There is a Cryptic in the graveyard. He has to draw it. So, right, because he needs it on Dilks' turn, a Bauble would work here, but an Astrolabe would get it right away. Either
right.
works.
Just getting it right away wins the game.
Yeah, that one wins because it's a tap out and a swing.
Exactly.
Right, if he can get it on a turn cycle, then he can maybe try to tap. Tap bounce. Does not appear to have it. Now he can spin for 5. If Cryptic's on top of the deck, he wins.
Well, they're both in his graveyard, right?
Wait. If... You're right now, so if Astrolabe's on top of the deck... It's until end of turn. Okay, so this would work.
So,
if there's a card draw spell from this Urza, he can then win.
Mm-hmm.
And it's Oko. That's not going to do it. He wanted Arkham's Astrolabe or... Not too many cards that would do it. And yeah, a miss and a sigh of... You see that from Collin, and they are going to a game 3.
Wow.
Dilks wins that one, and that looked unlikely.
That was a close one. That was really back and forth. It felt like Dilks was really ahead in the early game.
Right, all those clues.
Right, and then Collin was able to kind of pull a little bit ahead, put Dilks on the back foot in the mid game, but then Dilks really just showed the late game power of the Amulet Titan deck.
Yeah, I want to go back. It's why you do see a lot of the Urza decks play something like Thopter Sword, is to avoid that situation.
Mm-hmm. Sure, that's something where you need something that just says, I win the game.
Yeah, you don't want to get into a fair fight against Primeval Titans at any point. They just, especially in the Amulet Shell, they generate too much card advantage.
Exactly. That just a bunch of 2/2 zombies was good enough.
Right. And they will head to the third game. Just over 12 minutes remaining in the round. Should be good enough here, but we'll see. Players will want to be mindful of that, especially with how drawn out that game 2 was.
Oh, yeah. They really don't want to have to go to sudden death rules or get anything like that here.
So Matthew Dilks, another part of the Canadian contingent here at the Players' Championship. 29-year-old on the SCG Tour, part of Team Amulet. He is their legacy seat, playing with Daryl Ayers and Edgar Magayesh most of the season. This year on the tour, top-aided over half his opens, including an open win.
That's kind of unreal. That's a good stat to boast, is coming to an event and being a coin toss to top 8.
That is some pretty good magic. Yeah, big fan of land strategies. A lot of the times in Legacy Seat, he was playing on Golgari Depths. There's things similar to that, which was also his pod-winning deck for Legacy.
Yeah, it's just something he's very comfortable with. And something I put in our Players' Championship preview article is he's very good at solving puzzles in the game and kind of being able to thread the needle and know exactly what decisions he needs to make to put his opponent just off balance enough to be out of reach.
Have to do it one more time. Collin will be on the play for Game 3. It'll be his first time on the play this match.
That's something that he's got to feel pretty good about here. There's such a difference between a turn 3 Titan on the play versus on the draw.
Right. Well, as we saw there before, though, it feels to me that the pressure is on Collin not just to get out early, but then to close.
Right. There's such a difference in all of your cards, especially something like Oko, when you're playing from behind versus when you are ahead.
Right.
When you're actually applying pressure and kind of keeping your opponent at arm's length, something like Oko is going to be great at not ever letting your opponent off the ground, so to speak. But it's not the best defensive tool whenever you're kind of falling behind.
Looks like Collin going down to 6. Dilks going to keep on 7 here.
Feels like the Amulet Titan deck has just a wider range of 7-card hands that it's willing to keep whenever you have both Once Upon a Time and Ancient Stirrings in your deck. You just have so many different layers of consistency.
Collin going to be on 6 here then. Takes the new hand. And especially with how much value both these decks are able to create in the game, mulligans don't seem to be too punishing here.
No, not really. Both decks are going to have all of their cards be worth multiple cards anyway at some point. So having 6 at the start is really not that bad.
And both players with their turn 1 mana accelerants. We have Gilded Goose and Sakura Tribe Scout. Over to Collin we go. And turn 2 play. Maybe we're going to see the Planeswalker, and we do. It's Oko immediately elks down the Tribe Scout. He wants to keep that Titan away for as long as possible.
Right, and this is something that we saw game 1, where Rountree just used it to disrupt Dilks' game plan rather than progress his own as much.
Planeswalker down to 2. Let's see if Dilks can follow. And this time he has an Amulet and a pass. Don't know if Collin wants to elk the Amulet as well.
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit tougher when you only have Oko going up to 3 to make that sort of play.
So, Oko makes a food token. That's going to help Gilded Goose accelerate. He has a Damping Sphere here, but it looks like the play is going to be Emery. That one costs 1. 4 into the graveyard. Does he hit an artifact? He does not.
Oof.
But he has a Bauble in place. That shouldn't be too bad. And looks like he's going to follow it up with Damping Sphere.
Okay, this is a reasonable place to be.
Yeah, so far so good. Now, Dilks does get to untap with an Amulet. Unlikely that you're going to get Titan to this turn, especially not with Damping Sphere in play.
Right, Damping Sphere just only producing colorless mana, Damping Sphere making those bounce lands only make colorless mana, is really just going to put a damper on Dilks' turn.
Yeah, swing of 3, Oko to 1. It feels like Rountree is 1 Urza away from having the pieces he needs.
Right, he missed his land drop this previous turn, which feels like it was a pretty big deal.
An attack and an Azusa from Dilks. 2 more land drops coming. We see Breeding Pool. And is there another? And it's going to be Cavern of Souls, second land. So that one on Giant. It does get him up to 5 mana, so perhaps the Titan next turn.
Well, for now, this Growth Chamber only taps for 1.
Right, so he still needs 2 more lands. If the Azusa sticks around, it's possible he can do it.
That's true. Zeus is pretty good at 2 more lands.
Yeah. Right, Damping Sphere is doing some work. Go back to Collin. Can he find another play here? Oko is actually still under some pressure.
Right, and this is a spot where Damping Sphere actually is a bit of a drawback whenever you want to be looping Mishra's Bauble with Emery. That is not free anymore. It's gonna it being literally an extra spell is not the best.
Emery puts Bauble into play. Land from Collin. Make that. Okay, Gilded Goose makes a food token, and Emery turns it into an elk. It's going to play here. It's not the most impressive of turns for Collin.
No, it certainly isn't the thing that you're excited about, but it honestly is a fine turn, right? He gets to draw an extra card off this Bauble and just generated a free 3/3.
Right.
That being a disappointing turn in this deck just speaks to its overall power level.
Right. I mean, he has the best Planeswalker we've seen. He has a creature that taps to draw a card, another creature that taps to make artifacts or make mana. There's a lot to like here.
Mm-hmm.
For Dilks, it's going to be Summoner's Pact. It's his first of 2 spells. Presuming he casts the creature, so maybe this is a Rex Age he's going to grab. It's not. It's still just Primeval Titan.
Old Faithful.
Just make sure you can cast it, though. So, Teleria West. Going to untap. I mean, he can get to 7 if he has 3 lands here. Actually, this just works on its own. So we see here, it's going to be Selesnya Sanctuary, and then if he bounces a bounce land, he should be okay. Yeah, makes a green with Cavern on Giant. Gets 1 more land drop this turn. That can be the Cavern again, and then he has 1 mana floating, so that is 7 mana. It can pay for the Titan through the Damping Sphere. And it is just hard to keep the deck off Primeval Titan.
Right. The deck is built to do something, and it's going to do it.
And here we go. Primeval Titan onto the battlefield. And it is cleared for takeoff here. Well, no, can't get haste. It doesn't, I was going to say, do the Damping Sphere. It's more of a value Titan, but you can get Field of the Dead, which that one doesn't care at all about Damping Sphere.
And when you know your opponent's missing land drops, that's got to be an attractive option.
Gemstone Mine. He needs to get green sources, and then gets Field of the Dead. Breeding Pool and Gemstone Mine will be able to pay for that Summoner's Pact. And 2 zombies on the way. They untap. Yeah, swing in here. The Elks trade. And I like that they're willing to offer up the Azusa. At this point, he doesn't really need an Azusa anymore.
Right. Yeah, this is the spot where you just want to be able to pressure the Oko, get it closer to dead.
Two zombies. Back to Collin. I guess if he can find a Cryptic Command, Collin can cheese a win here. Right?
Well, with what?
Bouncing a land. Dilks can't pay for the pact.
Sure.
He could make, if he finds it right, he could make a food, Goose could eat it, he could bounce a green source.
Right.
And say, I got it. Outside of that kind of cheesing win, this is rough for Collin. Does he have it? Hold on.
God, no.
Is this, oh no. He bounces the breeding pool.
God, it actually
happened. And 2-1, Collin Rountree gets the win.
That's the price you pay for free spells.
Oh, wow. And for Dilks, look, he can play around it by, instead of getting Field of the Dead, getting a Forest. But that's such a bad feel. Because then Oko elks the Titan. You don't have Field of the